أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما. Today we are going to start with the surah called Aale Imran, or the family of Imran. Most of the surah was revealed in Medina in 3 Al-Hijri, after the Battle of Uhud, in which a near victory was turned into a near defeat, providing lessons to be learnt for the believers. Imran, the father of Maryam, Hazrat Maryam, Mary, was the forefather of many of the prophets mentioned here, hence the title Aale Imran. The story of Maryam starts before her birth and goes on to the virgin birth of Prophet Isa, that is Jesus. The stress is on Prophet Isa being a human being, a mortal, and a prophet sent by God. At the same time, many of his miracles are mentioned in detail. It also deals with the misinterpretation of allegorical or ambiguous verses, such as the deification of Jesus. Prophet Zachariah, Mary's childless uncle as well as her guardian, seeing her piety, prays for a child like her and is granted Prophet Yahya, that is John the Baptist. It is made clear that there is only one revealed system of belief which was taught by all the prophets and was sent for the guidance of all mankind. A considerable part of this surah was revealed when a delegation of the Christians from Najran, that is the Bani Najran, visited the Prophet and started to debate with him about his beliefs. So almost 80 verses or ayahs were revealed, emphasizing the oneness of God. And more than 1/3 of this surah is about the Battle of Uhud. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alif Lam Mim. Alif Lam Mim are the al-huruf al-muqatta'at, the disjointed letters which are placed at the beginning of some of the surahs and which are supposed to be a secret message between God and His Prophet. And they do not form any kind of recognizable or understandable word. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. God, there is no deity but He. He is the living, the maintainer of life. Hayyu is the living. That means He has always been alive and will always be alive. The living is an important divine name, and we have learnt about the Al-Asma al-Husna, that is the beautiful names of God, and it is one of them. And it is also called one of the Ummahatul Asma, that is one of the mothers of the names. That means one of the very important names. And it also means that God subsists through Himself, but all things subsist through Him. And the word Qayyum, somehow these two words are often found together, and they're also recited together. Qayyum means the self-existing, the eternal, the nurturer, and all creation is dependent on Him, and He is the maintainer of the life. The root of this word is to stand, sustain, or to establish. It has also been said that whoever wants to stay young should recite these words, Al-Hayyul Qayyum. It's up to you how many times you want to recite it. Maybe 100 times would be good enough. Nazzala alayka al-kitaba bil-haqqi musaddiqan lima bayna yadayhi wa anzala at-Tawrata wal-Injil. He revealed to you this book with the truth, confirming those revealed before it. He revealed the Torah, that is the Old Testament, and the Injil, the New Testament. With the truth means that when something is said to have been revealed with the truth, then there can be no argument which can be given against its points. Any word or deed can be called the truth when it is as it should be, and it should be balanced, and it should be present when needed. This has been stated by the great scholar Raghib Isfahani. And according to Qurtubi, this came when human intellect, when the human intellect had evolved and revealed the stage when it had surpassed the stage of being overawed by miracles. So verses were needed which would satisfy the mind with wisdom. This is why the Prophet did not display his miracles too much. من قبل هدى للناس وأنزل الفرقان إن الذين كفروا بآيات الله لهم عذاب شديد والله عزيز ذو انتقام. Before this, a guidance for people. This is the continuation of the last sentence, the last verse. He revealed the Torah and the Injil before this, a guidance for people, and revealed the criterion, that is the Quran. Indeed, the people who deny our signs, for them is severe punishment, as God is the powerful, the avenger. The distinguishing word is criterion. Criterion, it means, the word in Arabic is furqan. Criterion means something that establishes the rules of right and wrong by which any person or deed can be judged. And this is one of the many titles of the Quran found in the Quran itself. It is said that there are about 50 titles of the Quran which have been gleaned from the Quran itself. The word criterion or furqan can be compared to a touchstone. A touchstone is something that a jeweler has. It's a dark colored stone. And if you take a piece of metal to him and ask him, can you tell me if this is gold or if this is something different? And he will rub that piece onto his touchstone, and from the color that comes out, he will be able to tell you whether that piece is made of gold or something else. So the touchstone is something which distinguishes between the true and the false, the right and the wrong. And also, it distinguishes between halal and not the touchstone, but here the criterion, the Quran distinguishes between the halal and the haram and other things which might be good or bad, or truth from falsehood. And according to Imam Razi, the miracles are also a criterion because they can establish a person as being a prophet or as not being a prophet. It is also said that since the Quran is a criterion, therefore it is able to distinguish the true and the false in the earlier books. And some Islamic scholars think that, the earlier books had distorted the meaning, that is, the translation or the interpretation, but not the text itself. And it was done through the Nicene Creed, which was a kind of a faulty interpretation. This is a point of view of the Islamic scholars. And even the Christians, some of them think that the text is guided and sanctioned by God, but not directly revealed. It is, not a word for word. It has not been revealed like the Quran. Both Torah and Injil, and this of course applies to both of them, and Muslims could acknowledge the scriptures of the people of the book without accepting some interpretations and practices that might differ from the original revelation. These are all points of view of some Islamic scholars. And since Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to affirm the former religions and not to destroy them, so one is inclined to find the commonalities between the earlier scriptures and the Quran. And if you read the Bible, especially the New Testament, carefully, you will find that there are so many similarities that it's just mind-boggling. Of course, some of the basic fundamental things have been changed. And also, I'd like to say something here which I have never really, wanted to say earlier, but now I think in this context it can be said. The present form of the New Testament, to me, seems more like the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, rather than the Quran, because the Quran is word for word which was revealed from God through Angel Gabriel to Prophet Muhammad. Hadith is that in which, either the Prophet said something or some other people said something about the Prophet. What he said, what he did. What he did was the Sunnah. So to me, these Gospels tend to be more like the hadith. Inna Allah la yakhfa alayhi shay'un fil ardi wala fis sama. Indeed, from God is not hidden anything in the earth or the heavens. So this has been explained by scholars that here it is with reference to the fact of Jesus Isa being the Son of God, and they say, how can the fact of Jesus Isa being the Son of God be hidden from God? And if God in the Quran is saying that I do not have any son, then that is the truth. Huwa allazi yusawwirukum fil arhami kayfa yasha. La ilaha illa huwal azizul hakim. He is the one who gives form to you in the wombs as he pleases. There is no deity but he, the mighty, the wise. Now, giving form to you in the wombs has been explained by meaning that Jesus was also nurtured in the womb. We know this, and everybody accepts this. Therefore, he cannot be divined and he cannot be God. And the word yusawwiru comes from musawwir, and musawwir means an artist or one who gives form. So God is, of course, also an artist. And when he says he gives form to you in the wombs as he pleases, then that means it's not his whim, not according to his whim, but according to his wisdom. Huwa allazi anzala alayka al-kitaba minhu ayatun muhkamatun hunna ummul kitabi wa ukhra mutashabihat. This is, first I'll read out the translation. He is the one who revealed to you the book in which some verses are categorical, which are the foundation of the book, and others are allegorical. Now the categorical verses or muhkamat are the verses which are the foundation of the Quran. They are the law-giving verses of the Quran, and they are clear and unambiguous verses having only one meaning. For example, if it says, your God is one God, there's no God other than he, then there can't be two meanings of this sentence. So all the laws and injunctions and moral advice in the Quran are to be found in these categorical verses, which are essential for the practice of the faith. And it is said that none of these were abrogated. They have also been called the univocal because they have only one meaning. Allegorical, mutashabihat. These are the allegorical or the ambiguous or the symbolic verses which have more than one meaning. Equivocal, they have also been called multivalent and having a resemblance and symbolic. They often have more than one meaning, implying a hidden mystical meaning, and are often open to interpretation, having an interpretive plurality. That means they can be interpreted in more than one ways. Things which are beyond human observation are mentioned metaphorically, such as a comparison to things which are tangible. Example, verses dealing with God's essence and the pleasures of paradise. These concepts have been explained in the Quran through familiar examples. For instance, God is the glorious light of the heavens and the earth, or the mention of God's hands or face or eyes. Paradise is described through familiar examples of verdant gardens with streams of running water and trees laden with all kinds of fruit, which resemble the fruit of this world. Those in paradise will enjoy all this beauty of nature with beautiful companions in infinite bliss. Here the unknown is described through the known or the familiar example. When interpreting and following the mutashabihat, one cannot go against the categorical or the muhkamat verses which have the laws and injunctions, because they are the foundation of the Quran and the faith. Also, out of context interpretations, they can also become ambiguous because people do not consider them according to with reference to their context. For example, kill them wherever you find them. Now you have to look at the context to see why this was said. And no one can acquire knowledge of mutashabih on one's own, and only as much as God has given to his prophets, and through him to the walis and the saints, and through the saints some people who are close to the saints, they might acquire some of this knowledge. Now, the metaphysical subjects which are beyond the immediate senses and which are beyond the physical world, like the ghaib, these are like God's attributes, time and eternity, resurrection of the dead, day of judgment, paradise and hell, angels, all these things are open to interpretation. Another point that Muhammad Asad had said about the original Injil, he said that this was the book revealed to Jesus known as the Evangelion, which has since been lost. He thinks this is the source from which the synoptic Gospels derived their material. The Gospels that we have now, Gospel according to St. Mark, St. Luke, St. John, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, these derived their material from this original Injil, which was actually revealed to Jesus, but it has now been lost. This is the opinion of the scholar Muhammad Asad. Inna allazina kafaru lan tughniya anhum amwaluhum wala awladuhum min Allahi shay'an wa ulaika hum waqudun nar. Those who deny will not derive any benefit from their wealth nor from their children. They are the ones who are the fuel for the fire. So in this world, of course, people are very proud of their wealth. Most people are just running after wealth, trying to earn more and more, and there's really nothing wrong with it, except that it should be earned in the proper way and also used in the proper way. So, but these things are the attractions of this world. In the next world, they will not be any use to them, nor will their children. Now, people were very proud of their sons. If somebody had 10 sons, he thought, he was considered to be a very powerful person. These, and also since they used to have so many feuds and, tribal wars and all these sort of things, sons came in they were very useful. But in the next world, those who deny, those who do not believe in God and the prophets, they will not derive any benefit from their wealth nor from their children, and they are the ones who are the fuel for the fire. Now one can ask the question here that those who deny will not derive any benefit from these. So what about those who do not deny? Will they derive any benefit from their wealth and children in the hereafter? No. They will also not derive any benefit in the hereafter, but if they believe, then they will know how they have to deal with their wealth in this world and how they have to bring up their children so that their wealth and their children will become a source of a continuous reward for them in the next world. For example, if they have used their wealth in the good causes or for those people who have a right over their wealth, then they will be getting a continuous reward from that wealth. Or if they have done something which continuously providing benefit to the people, they have, in a place where there's no water, if they finance the digging of a well, if they bring up their children in such a way that the children behave as they should behave, as the believers should behave, then, or if they do extra things for their parents, then these rewards will be given to them in the hereafter. The continuous reward will reach them in the hereafter. كَدَابِ آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ وَالَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا فَأَخَذَهُمُ اللَّهُ بِذُنُوبِهِمْ وَاللَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Like the people of Pharaoh and those before them, they denied our signs. So God got them because of their sins. God is severe in punishment. Pharaoh is the Pharaoh of the time of Prophet Moses, and he of course was a non-believer, and he said, I am God, and he made his people treat him like a god, bow to him like a god, and they could not question him in any of his decisions. So here it is being said that God does not punish a nation without cause, but as a result of their denial and their evil deeds. And the example being given here is that of Pharaoh. So here it is said that those who deny they will be caught in this world as well. It is not simply that they will be punished in the next world, but they will be punished in this world as well as the next. قُلْ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَتُغْلَبُونَ وَتُحْشَرُونَ إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ وَبِئْسَ الْمِهَادُ. Say to those who denied, soon you will be overpowered and gathered towards hell. What an evil abode. The word qul is here again. Qul is telling the Prophet to say something to the deniers, to the unbelievers, or whoever is arguing with him. So say to those who denied, soon you will be overpowered and gathered towards hell. So after the victory at Badr, the battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ invited the Jews to Islam, to which they gave a rude answer. They said, oh, you've just fought with the Makkans, they are not strong enough. Come and fight with us, then we'll show you how strong we are. So at this ayah was revealed, announcing their defeat and dishonor. Defeat in this world and punishment in the hereafter, as it happened to them after some years in Medina. This is especially with reference to the tribes of Bani Qurayza and the Banu Nazir. They're very powerful tribes, Jewish tribes in Medina. Now here this question of wealth and children are often mentioned together in the Quran. They are both like, two types of wealth. So it is said that, it is explained by commentators that the wealth provides social status and the children satisfy the desire for security in old age, for immortality, like you don't want to really die completely, so you have children, you feel, a part of me is going to live on. And also you need someone to inherit everything that one has hoarded throughout one's life. On the last day, all these things will have absolutely no value. And in this life, the above are a source of trial. قَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ آيَةٌ فِي فِئَتَيْنِ الْتَقَتَا فِئَةٌ تُقَاتِلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَأُخْرَى كَافِرَةٌ يَرَوْنَهُمْ مِثْلَيْهِمْ رَأْيَ الْعَيْنِ وَاللَّهُ يُؤَيِّدُ بِنَصْرِهِ مَن يَشَاءُ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَبْصَارِ. There was a sign in the two groups that met. This is a reference to Badr. One group was fighting in the cause of God. The other was of unbelievers. They saw them as double in number. For God strengthens with His help whomever He pleases. Indeed, in this is a lesson for those who can see. So the believers fought their first war. In Makkah, they were always told to bear with patience. But in Medina, they fought the first war with the unbelievers in the second Hijri, corresponding to 624 CE, at a place called Badr, which was some 80 miles from Medina, on the way to Makkah. The number of the believers was only 313, equipped mainly with the strength of their faith, while the opposite side was close to 1,000 strong, well-equipped and well-mounted men, including almost all of their leaders. Now there are different opinions about who saw whom as being double in number. Some think the believers saw the unbelievers as being double in number and were yet steadfast, while others think that the unbelievers saw the believers as being double and therefore felt weak. So eventually 70 Quraysh unbelievers were killed, 70 were captured, and the rest fled. Of the believers, 14 were killed. This was the first war fought and won by the believers. According to Ibn Jarir, believers saw the unbelievers as being double, and this strengthened their faith even more, and he thinks that success depends on the help and backing of God. And when God's help arrives, the numbers and the ammunition does not really matter. قَالْ أَنَبِّئُكُمْ بِخَيْرٍ مِّن ذَلِكُمْ لِلَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ جَنَّاتٌ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجًا مُطَهَّرَةٌ وَرِضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Say, shall I tell you of something better For those who are God conscious, their Lord has gardens with streams flowing by and companions pure, and the pleasure of God. God observes his devotees. There's a comma here after God observes his devotees. This goes into the next verse. So say, shall I tell you of something better? For those who are God conscious, like the word here in Arabic is Allazina taqo. That is having taqwa. Taqwa, as we've discussed earlier, can mean pious, God conscious, afraid of God. Very often in the translation they say, they use the word fear, those who are afraid of God. God conscious is a good translation. For those who are God conscious, the Lord has gardens with stream flowing by. This again description of the Jannah. And companions pure, azwajam muttaharatum, and the pleasure of God. So for a believer, especially those who are more spiritually inclined, the pleasure of God, ridwanum minallah, when God is pleased with a person, that is the highest achievement. And it also brings about a lot of contentment. If you look up Surah Al-Fajr, which is the 89th Surah, number 28, you will learn about, the mention of Ridwanu Minallah, that is the pleasure of God, how God can be so content and pleased with a person that in the end, the person who reaches this highest level of being, his soul becomes content and he's pleased with God. The person is pleased with God and God is pleased with him, that God welcomes this person to heaven himself. Allazina yaquluna rabbana innana amanna faghfir lana zunubana waqina azaban nar. Those who say, O our Lord, indeed we have come to believe, so forgive us our sins and save us from the punishment of the fire. So these people are described in the next verse. As-sabirina wal-sadiqina wal-qanitina wal-munfiqina wal-mustaghfirina bil-ashar. They are the patiently steadfast, truthful, humble in devotion. They spend in the way of God and ask for forgiveness at dawn. So these are the attributes or qualities of the muttaqi, of the pious, of the God conscious, that they are patient not only with what other people are doing to them, but also patient in following all the rituals and all the things that they are supposed to practice. They do it, they don't complain. And they keep moving forward. They try to keep doing more and more every day. They also sadiqeen, so they are truthful. They are not only truthful to other people, they are truthful to themselves as well, and then they reach such a high stage that they become the Siddiq. They are humble in devotion. They do not brag about their worship, like Satan had done so much of worship that he was a jinn and he was asked to come and stay with the angels. But he became very proud of conceited about his worship, and therefore he had to suffer that fall. So people who are God conscious are humble in their devotion. They're humble towards God and they're also humble about what they are practicing. And they spend not on themselves, spend not wastefully or lavishly, but they spend in the way of God. Spending in the way of God means spending for all those people we have been told they have a right on us. Spending in some good causes. One spending is obligatory, that is the zakah or the zakat, which everyone has to spend, which is 2.5% annually of one's assets or savings. But besides that, that is something that one has to do in any case. That does not really bring any great reward, but the reward comes from spending something over and above this zakat. So these people who are muttaqi, they spend in the way of God and they ask for forgiveness at dawn. So what is the meaning of this asking for forgiveness at dawn? Firstly, asking for forgiveness was the way of the Prophet. And once his wife Aisha asked him as to why he did so much istighfar, which is asking for forgiveness, because she knew, we all know, that the prophets are supposed to be innocent. That means they cannot commit any sin. They might have a little slip, but they do not sin. So she said, why do you do so much istighfar? And he replied by saying, should I not become a grateful devotee of God? So this is also a way of being grateful, by being humble and asking for forgiveness for the wrong things we know we have done, and the wrong things which we might have done without knowing it, unknowingly. And there are innumerable formulae for asking for forgiveness. And it is also supposed to bring peace, and this removes hurdles and creates an atmosphere in which prayers are answered. So some people always do some istighfar before they pray for something. Ideal recommended time for asking for forgiveness, as mentioned here, is early in the morning before dawn, which is the time for the Tahajjud prayers. This is just before the Fajr prayers, or any time after Isha and before Fajr. And since this is the time for Fajr prayers, this is the time when the highly spiritually inclined people wake up so early, and they try to say their Tahajjud. At the same time, they try to do some istighfar. Salat, or the prayer of the Tahajjud time, has also been called the prayer of love, or ishq. Ishq is sort of, the highest form of love. And since, it's a peaceful time, there's no disturbance, and the person praying has his, he has total concentration, and this is a prayer which is voluntary. It can be called a supererogatory prayer. So this has been mentioned here as being the ideal time for asking for forgiveness. But of course, this does not mean that one cannot do this at any other time. One can ask for forgiveness the whole day if one wants to. But that is the ideal time when the prayers are accepted. شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. God has testified that there is no deity but He, and the angels and those with knowledge also testify that He is the maintainer of justice. There is no deity but He, the mighty, the wise. God has testified that there is no deity but He Himself testifies that I am the only deity, La ilaha illallah. So the highest testimony that can be given is the testimony about the oneness of God. If you like, you can look up Surah number 7, verse number 172, where it is mentioned how God gathered all the people, all the souls that were going to be born through Adam, and this is like a primordial agreement before time, And He asked them, called them all together, and He asked them, "Am I not your Lord?" And they all said, "Bala," which means yes, of course. And all those who testified have in some subconscious mind of theirs, they know that God is there, that the one God is their real deity. So God has testified, and the angels testify, and those with knowledge also testify that He is the only God, and that He is the maintainer of justice. That God maintains justice in all creation and all its aspects. Sometimes one might think, so-and-so got so much and I got so little, so where is the justice? But then there is a wisdom in it, which we in this world do not understand, but maybe in the next world, inshallah, we will. Inna dina indallahi al-Islam. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. Indeed, true faith in the eyes of God is Islam, and the people of the book did not differ about this revelation except after they had received the knowledge due to a mutual grudge. And he who denies our signs, indeed God is quick in settling accounts. So true faith in the eyes of God is Islam. Islam means submission, it means obedience and the resultant peace. It also means belief in the last prophets of one time. Of course, first is to believe in the one God and to believe in the last prophets of one's time, and also in all the former prophets which came earlier. This is the meaning of Islam. People of the book did not differ about this revelation except after they had received the knowledge due to a mutual right. That is, they used to wait for the last prophet to come. They knew that he would bring the final book, and you can still read some of these things in the Bible. But after Prophet Muhammad announced his prophethood, they refused to believe in him and his book because he was not one of them. And this is the meaning here, due to a mutual grudge. That, they, especially the Jews, had become very domineering, because they had all the knowledge given to them through all these prophets that they had received. And they were also very good at trading. They were financially very stable. So they kept believing in this last prophet to come, but when he came, after several generations, then they stopped believing in him. And also the Christians similarly stopped believing in the prophet when he came. And he who denies our signs, indeed, God is quick in settling accounts. So God says, I have sent so many signs, and if you still deny these signs, then I can hold you accountable. So you will find in the Quran that many of the other prophets have made the statement that I am a Muslim. But today this word is used only for the followers of Prophet Muhammad. So following after the advent of Prophet Muhammad, following him and his teachings, he was given the name of Islam. And in this religion, the Prophet Muhammad did not come just for his own people, like even Jesus came just for his own people. But he came for the whole universe. And you will find that innumerable times in the Quran, of course, it is addressed to Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, that means, O you who believe, but innumerable times it is addressed to Ya ayyuhan nas, that is, O people, O mankind. So this is addressed to the whole of mankind, and this Quran has not been corrupted or changed or altered in any way, because God has taken upon himself the responsibility of preserving it. And this fact is also mentioned in the Quran. So all of humanity is invited to this truth, and there is only one truth, which is the highest truth in the universe, and that is about the oneness of God. فَإِنْ حَاجُّوكَ فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَقُلِ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ وَالْأُمِّيِّينَ أَأَسْلَمْتُمْ فَإِنْ أَسْلَمُوا فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا وَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. If they still argue with you, say, I have surrendered my will to God, so have those who have followed me. And say to those who have been given the book as well as the unlettered, have you surrendered to God? That is, have you accepted Islam? If they have surrendered, then they have attained guidance. But if they turn away, then your duty was simply to convey the message. وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ. If they turn away, then your duty was to convey the message. وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. That is, God observes his servants, his devotees. So from verse 20 onwards to verse 25, some of the bad habits of the Bani Israelis have been mentioned. For example, denying the truth when they themselves believed in it earlier, persecuting and killing those on the right path, and even the prophets. And according to some, 39 prophets were killed by them, but according to others, about 43 prophets were killed by the Bani Israelis. So I think we can now stop here. This is verse number 20 of Surah Aale Imran, And inshallah next time we will carry on from verse number 21. Let's say our usual compact small prayer. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأدخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين ثم آمين. Thank you everybody for joining us, and inshallah we'll see you next time. Allah Hafiz.